Thank you so much for the kind introduction. Good day, everyone. So for today, I am going to discuss about the programming logic formulation. So the initial discussion pertains to the motivation for engaging in software development work. So we seek to comprehend the process of software development and the methodologies employed by these discussions. Now, this inquiry pertains to the development process of software, specifically focusing on the subsequent integration of smaller software components into a larger software system. The primary objective is to conduct a comprehensive analysis of the encountered issues and afterwards devise effective solutions to address them. In this webinar, we will explore three significant questions of a magical nature. In the subsequent discussion, we will delve into the fundamental structure of programming objects. Additionally, we will examine two related topics, namely pseudocode and flowcharts, which serve as a technical and programming-friendly means to present solutions. Moving forward, the implementation segment will provide a comprehensive analysis of programming constructs, and this will include discussions on the concepts previously introduced in this webinar, with a focus on guiding you in writing code and initiating the coding process. It is important to highlight that programming primarily involves the creation of logical structures to construct solutions. I'm so happy that, of course, this time, a lot of university increase their enrollment when it comes to BS Information Technology, BS Computer Science, and BS Information System. All three mentioned programs has a programming languages. Now, specifically the Introduction to Computing, which cover the logic formulation. Programming language are utilized as instrument to manifest solution and practicality, thereby warranting their inclusion in educational curricula. In the scenario where an individual possesses a tool, they possess knowledge of the instrument itself, yet lack of solution at hand and are incapable of coding. So prior to acquiring proficiency in the instrument or tools, it is vital to comprehend the problem-solving process. So by successfully resolving the problem, one can effectively employ the tool and manifest the desired result. Therefore, all of you will be engaging in that behavior within our discussion. In the context of decision-making, it is important to consider the fundamental structure of programming languages. By doing so, one can establish a strong reputation and effectively address the specific functions under discussion in this webinar, in this course. In this area, I will be presenting numerous examples to enhance your programming skills. And these examples will be implemented to facilitate a better understanding of the topic for today. Once again, I am Dr. Abante and designated discussant for this afternoon webinar, or for this day webinar actually. And this lecture marks the commencement of the course Logic Formulation or Programming for Beginners. In this webinar, the objective is to acquire knowledge on the principles of logic, coding techniques, and programming proficiency. What is the most effective approach to acquiring programming skills? And in this webinar, we will engage in a comprehensive discussions of several topics. May I request everyone to please encode your program enrolled right now. If you are a BSIT, and if you are BS Com Sci students, and so on. And of course, kindly indicate also your year level. Okay, to continue. In this webinar, under considerations pertains to the definition of software development and the various approaches employed in this execution. Specifically, we shall explore 2 or 3 distinct methodologies for software development, as well as the diverse methods through which software developers can offer their services and generate income. what is the nature of the opportunity? And the forthcoming presentations will focus on the opportunity at hand. So it is evident that there are two primary categories of prospects for individuals pursuing a career in software development. And these options encompass the role of a software developer. So the initial items offers a resolution. So entrepreneurship can be described as a concept that encompasses several aspects of business creation and management. The second aspect entails offering services wherein software development is conducted on a customized basis for clients. So individuals often approach you with their specific needs and want your assistance in developing customized software solutions to meet those requirements. So software development is a field that caters to the needs of individuals or organizations seeking to acquire services and experience in this domain. So as a provider, you offer your services for sale to interested parties. In this initial scenario, you assume the role of an entrepreneur. So the process involves doing an analysis of individuals' issues, identifying any gaps or deficiencies, and subsequently addressing them through the development and introduction of a market solution, resulting in the generation of profits. There are two techniques that can be pursued. However, the primary focus on this webinar resolves around the misconception held by many individuals that software development is solely centered around programming. The focus of our discussion pertains to programming. Nevertheless, it is important to note that programming encompasses more than solely the act of writing code. And the process of developing software encompasses a whole life cycle. And we will also address this matter for discussion. So in addition, we will also explore the importance of critical thinking and its applications in order to effectively comprehend and meet the specified criteria. Student, it is vital to engage in critical thinking and thoroughly comprehend the given requirements. Subsequently, one will possess the capability to construct the solution and subsequently engage in the development of the software. Now, the first topic under consideration is entrepreneurship. As I mentioned earlier, various logos, as what we have here, are visible in the screen. And I think everybody are familiar. The action undertaken by Airbnb are observable. The platform facilitated the provision of opportunities for individuals to monetize their surplus spaces while simultaneously aiding others in their search for affordable accommodation. Additionally, it allowed users to immerse themselves in the local culture and traditions of their respective residing areas. So, the researchers formulated a concept and afterwards recognized a deficiency. So a solution is constructed to bridge the aforementioned gap. And currently, imagine the organizations or the IT industry handling Airbnb has achieved a valuation of $1 billion. As soon as Microsoft emerged, it facilitated the widespread adoption of personal computers, making them accessible to individuals in their workspaces because they facilitate accessibility and affordability for the general population. Similarly, Facebook may be described as a large community of individuals from diverse geographical locations, enabling you and them to express their ideas and engage in communication with one another. Because individuals have the ability to establish acquaintance, collaborate, and exchange ideas, so fostering a sense of community and facilitating immediate connections with others. It is evident that the conventional means of communication have become obsolete, with the postal techniques being rarely utilized, save for official paperwork at the governmental level and in some offices. So, the general populace is not using that particular means of communication, and instead, the majority of individuals are engaging in communication over the platform of Facebook. In a similar vein, the rise of YouTube has contributed to the diminishing relevance of traditional television stations. There is a lack of observers present. In contemporary society, no, individuals possesses the authority or autonomy to generate their own content and exercise unrestricted control over the selection of YouTube videos they consume. In the past, viewers were required to observe the programming selections presented by television networks. It is imperative to view that regardless of personal preference. However, with the acquisition of authority, one possesses the capacity and volition to generate original information and disseminate it accordingly. Additionally, it is impossible to engage in viewing the content that aligns with one's personal preference and interest. This is an account of how individuals have empowered themselves to establish the largest global television network, which, of course, gamers a monthly viewership over 1 billion. In similar vein, Uber has facilitated the process of booking taxis or Grab within the taxi system, making it more accessible for the general public. In contemporary times, a modest amount of expansion may be observed compared to prior periods. And during when costs were comparatively lower, however, the solutions implemented during that time presented an avenue for individuals to generate income. Additionally, they have provided an opportunity to enhance convenience and simplify the lives of a significant portion of the population. And this is an illustrative example provided to elucidate the approach of software development employed by many software firms. Student, it is evident that an issue has been detected and a solution was devised for the aforementioned challenges and difficulties. Another method of delivering services involves a straightforward process whereby an individual approaches you with a request to develop a software application, giving you with the necessary specification. So the user is advised to inquire, elucidate, and ascertain the specific requirements and needs of the individual in question. Of course, numerous stages are engaged in comprehending the demand. And there are numerous activities included in the process, such as interviewing and prototyping, among others. And after obtaining the necessary requirements, the software development process commences, followed by the delivery and subsequent maintenance of the product. This represents a comprehensive life cycle and process. In the context of the aforementioned systems, the focus of this webinar pertains to the software development life cycle. In the realm of reality, all entries or even all entities possess a life cycle, and there are no one shortcuts available. It may be observed that all entities possess a life cycle in order to initiate progress. Now, it is necessary to commence from a certain point and proceed incrementally advancing through a series of steps and processes until the desired level of maturity is achieved. In a similar vein, a software development life cycle is employed for the creation of this particular software. Now, in this context, it is evident that the subject under discussion is the software development life cycle. And there are 5 primary phases that need to be undertaken, with the first step being analysis. In the subsequent discussion, we will delve into a comprehensive examination of these steps. However, in this context, one may observe the presence of several components, namely names, analysis, design, implementation, testing, and maintenance. Now, let us delve into the analysis pertaining to entrepreneurship, specifically the development of entrepreneurial ventures. Now, alternatively, we can focus on product development or service development within the realm of entrepreneurial endeavors. In the context of product development, one may be engaged in the creation of a tangible product, while in the case of service development, one may be involved in the provision of a service. Both the analysis component is of utmost importance as it necessitates a comprehensive understanding of the topic at hand, including the identification of the specific issues or requirements that individuals are encountering. Now, in accordance with the aforementioned need, it is necessary to devise a coherent solutions that will be implemented during a subsequent phase of the design process. In this particular phase, the problem is identified, comprehended, and the stakeholders are identified. What is the definition of stakeholders? Stakeholders encompass individuals who are directly or indirectly impacted by it. Suppose one is tasked with building a system for an office wherein the implementation of the system will have an impact on all personnel within the office. So it is plausible that individuals may experience termination from their employment or alternatively observe an enhancement in their production. Likewise, the individual financing the software's development assumes the role of stakeholders due to their vested interest in the project. If the software is functioning properly, then all of the issues he is experiencing will be resolved. However, in the event of software failure, or if the software development does not meet the predicted outcomes, the individual stands to lose all of their financial resources. He possesses a vested interest in the field of software development, and there is a multitude of individuals in entities that can be identified within this context. Suppose that the utilization of credit cards as a payment method within your program designates the credit card system or banking system as a stakeholder. So, as the bank receives a percentage from each transaction processed through your software, the bank in question is also considered a stakeholder. A stakeholder is an entity that can be impacted either positively or negatively. So the development of this software may have adverse effects on certain individuals or entities. In various circumstances, individuals may experience job loss or acquired a vehicle, among other potential occurrences. And the outcome is contingent upon the specific circumstances. Next, we go on to the design process. This stage of the project entails the design phase, which involves the development and refinement of the process or design. The focus does not lie on the color scheme or the visual user interface. There is no evidence to support the claim, and the following is the rational resolution to the specified demand that was previously discussed in the preceding stage. The design now represents the most rational and practical solution. The subject in question pertains to the field of architecture, and this explanation will be elucidated through the architectural design of a residential dwelling. So, when an individual acquires a plot of land, the subsequent step involves the construction of house upon such plot. So, the initial step entails engaging the services of an architect who will proceed to develop a blueprint or architectural design plan outlining the proposed development or construction process for a residential property. In a similar vein, within the realm of software development, the concept of architecture is also present. The initial step involves the design of the architecture, which is subsequently followed by the implementation process in alignment with the said architecture. This is the initial subsequent stage. The subsequent phase involves the development of the design that was formulated in the preceding step. So during the preceding phase, we engage in the process of designing then proceeding to the programming steps in order to construct a comprehensive software solution. And the subsequent phase in the software development process involves programming, which is a significant component within the overall software development lifecycle. Programming alone does not encompass the entirety of software development. In addition, there are more steps that should be considered. Subsequently, the programming phase ensues. Within this phase, many programming languages are employed, signifying that these languages serve as the instruments utilized by programmers for software development. So right now, will you please type or encode what programming languages you are expert? Or not totally expert, but you could able, of course, to create even a simple program or an intermediate program. Like, let's say, for example, C, C++, Java, Android programming, and so on, or Python, R programming, and so on. So, having a comprehensive understanding of the tool in question is crucial in order to effectively devise a solution. However, processing knowledge of that particular tool does not necessarily equate to proficiency in programming, because programming involves the process of formulating and implementing solutions to problems through the creation and execution of a code. Proficiency in problem solving is indicative of strong programming skills. Any individual has the capacity to compose statements in a programming language of their choosing, as programming languages serve as a means to facilitate the development of solutions. It is vital to acquire self-knowledge, because the primary objective of this webinar is to cultivate proficiency in programming, emphasizing problem-solving skills. It is imperative that the participants develop the ability to effectively address various challenges encountered in programming. It is advisable to possess programming skills that transcend any one programming language, so avoiding the designation of oneself as solely a Java developer. Actually, right now, I'm happy that I could able to develop a Python, because I could consider myself as a Python developer. A Python developer, because as programmer, we can acquire proficiency in any programming tool or language within a month or a span of 20 to 30 days. And this enables the implementation of one's design and the development of logical solutions in various programming languages. But I really love C language, actually. Now, the selection of programming languages is contingent upon factors that determine its suitability for a given task. The choice of programming language is contingent upon several factors, including the financial resources available to the customer, the associated cost, and the precise requirements of the task at hand. In certain instances, certain languages may be mandated for the completion of a certain task, thereby limiting the options available to the user. Certain programming languages are designed to be versatile and applicable to a wide range of scenarios, like Java, necessitating their use in many situations. The subsequent phase involves testing, namely the testing phase. Prior to delivering the solutions to the user, it is customary to do testing. Our institution offers a comprehensive course that covers all aspects of software testing, actually. And most commonly, all the universities and colleges offer Architecture 1, Architecture 2, or maybe for computer science, software engineering, which also covered software testing. And this include instruction of testing methodologies, defect identification techniques, bug reporting protocols, as well as the process of developing the test cases and test data. There exist numerous factors and multitude of processes that are involved. Because I believe in every organization, the software tester has a distinct and a specialized duty that mostly entails testing the program, identifying any defects or errors, and afterwards assigning those issues to the developer. He or she is currently engaged, of course, in development of software aimed at validating, checking, and rectifying a specific fault. So during the testing process, it is imperative to verify that all components are functioning properly and in accordance with user expectation. Additionally, as programmer, it is crucial to identify and rectify any software bugs that may arise, since they might potentially hinder the product's performance. So, achieving a state of complete bug-free software is an unattainable goal. However, the software tester ensures that flow is functioning correctly and devoid of any error or issues. After that, next, we go on to the maintenance phase. In the maintenance phase, the software is diligently maintained by of course, by the team who are in charge for this, specifically the system administrator, the technical support. And once the software has been delivered to the customer and they have conducted their testing, this particular aspect comes into play. So if the user has any issues that do not meet their expectation, it is possible to make the necessary modifications. And the decision to change for maintenance or offer a free trial period of 1 or 2 months relies on the specific business model in place. Subsequently, a fee is imposed for each task requested by the client, as well as the additional software integrations they desire. And this practice constitutes a form of customer support and software maintenance, wherein charges are levied in accordance with the specific task undertaking. This presentation provided an overview of several forms of software development, including guidance on selecting a career route and an explanation of the software development process. It is also important to all students to explore the appropriate approach to consider when engaging with customers to gather requirements, as well as the recommended thinking process and problem-solving methods for addressing such challenges. And due to the introductory nature of our discussion, our focus will not encompass more advanced software or complex issues, because in this webinar, we shall go into the realm of minor course and programming predicaments, exploring the methods by which one may discern and comprehend these challenges, as well as devise effective solutions for their resolution. So actually, I have an activity for you, but since we have limited time, if you wanted to do this one, better, okay? So, in this section or in this presentation, we will examine a methodology for addressing the issue at hand. This approach facilitates comprehension of the subordinate issue and promotes a critical analysis of the subject at hand. So we have 3 questions here. Now, what is the input required? What is the what to do with the input, and what output is expected? The method employed for addressing the LISR problem is analogous to the approach I personally employ for tackling the larger challenge. The feasibility of this approach is questionable, as it is predicated on the notion that software developers are unable to fully resolve overarching issues. In a single attempt, the problem is partitioned into similar components, referred to as modules, which are subsequently addressed individual and afterward reassembled. Now, most commonly, we are trying to create per module, right? After the compilation process, so the individual modules are then integrated to form a more comprehensive solution. In this particular scenario, it is plausible that the proposed solution may be effective. However, it is imperative to prioritize the resolution of smaller issues at present, given that you are embarking upon your career as a software engineer. It is vital to comprehend the necessity of adapting developers' mindset, as this approach will facilitate the cultivation of cognitive process to align with the principles and practice of software development. And the next steps entails posing 3 inquiries. The following are the 3 inquiries on the necessary input. the required actions to be taken with said input, and the anticipated output resulting from the processing, specifically in relation to the subsequent step and its intended utilization, and the user's text lack academic tone and structure. Now, let us illustrative case wherein a scenario or whereby a scenario is presented involving the addition of two numbers. Let's say, for example, so develop a software application to perform the arithmetic operation in addition on two numerical values. Now, once using the initial approach, the primary inquiry arises. What specific input is necessitated inside the particular scenario? As what we have here. Okay? Then, in order to proceed, it is necessary to obtain input consisting of two numerical values, now referred to as number 1 and number 2. For the purposes of illustration, let us assume that both numbers are equal to 2, and the subsequent step involves determining the appropriate course of action to be taken with the aforementioned data. The second inquiry pertains to the processing required for the manipulation. So what to do with the input? The processing phase involves the task of adding the two given numbers, and the calculations being performed here involves the addition of 2 and 2, which is fundamental arithmetic operation. Furthermore, if one were to inquire about the third question, namely, what is the anticipated outcome? Therefore, the resulting output is, the solution is presented by the output. The sum of these two numbers yields the solution of 4. And the present study focused on the application of a specific methodology to address a rather simple and limited problem. So the aforementioned mechanism can be applied to various inquiries, enabling one to obtain the corresponding answer. Now, the methodology for obtaining the solution will be discussed, and the response provided pertains to the initial inquiry, and the answer to the problem statement will be obtained by you. Certainly, the answer to the third questions will be provided in this, of course, discussion. Or if it is not explicitly indicated, one can speculate on potential solutions to the problem. And the focal component in question is the following. The primary issue lies within the formulation of this query, since the resolution is anticipated to be presented in the subsequent discussion. Now, let us discuss the methodology employed in order to ascertain the solution. In the majority of instances, possessing prior knowledge of an issue increases the likelihood of successfully locating a solution. It is possible that you possess the capability to answer the question independently. So in the event that one does not own the remedy, it is a straightforward matter. And in contemporary society, individuals have convenient access to various sources of information, such as the internet, coworkers, and chat platforms, which facilitate the acquisition of solutions to various problems. And the formula can be obtained by posing a query and afterwards inquiring about it. And the remedy for that will be provided to you. In instances, when the processing phase has multiple components, it is possible that the resolution of a given query may necessitate the execution of numerous sequential operations. So for each individual stage, it is possible to seek guidance for or locate solutions on the internet. Subsequently, one can integrate or amalgamate these many steps to generate the desired outcome as outlined in the third step. In the present discussion, we will proceed to apply the aforementioned scenario to several inquiries. Now, the initial issue at hand is to determining a solution for the calculation of the area of a rectangle, as what we have here in our presentation, which is determined by multiplying its length by its breadth or width. So in the given problem statement, the formula is provided by calculating the area of a rectangle, which states that the area of a rectangle is equal to the product of its length and width. So the following is the formula that can be applied. Develop a computer application that prompts the user to input the length and width of two rectangles. And the program should then determine the communicate which rectangle possesses the larger area. So if one were to inquire about this matter, the initial considerations would be to ascertain in the remedy. So if one were to inquire about the initial sets of inputs needed, what would they be? So the dimensions of rectangle 1 include its length and width, whereas the dimension of rectangle 2 also consists of length and width. What action should be taken in regard to the matter? How should one address the issue of these two entities? In this task, we will proceed to calculate the area of two rectangles and determine which one is larger. And there are now two steps involved in this process. The initial stage involves the determination of the area for both rectangles, right? So after completing the initial stage, the subsequent procedure involves identifying the larger value. And the present discourse outlines a two-step approach for resolving the issue at hand. In the third phase, the output will indicate the larger of the two areas being compared. And this particular issue was very minor in scale, and we proceeded to employ the aforementioned approach to address it. It has been determined that the problem can be categorized into three distinct stages. Furthermore, it was comprehended by our group. What is the necessary input for the task at hand? What is the desired output? And what are the procedures involved in obtaining that output? The two-step solution was discovered. First, the area of the rectangle 1 is calculated, followed by the calculation of the area of a rectangle 2. By obtaining these two areas, a comparison may be made to determine which area is greater. Additionally, the formula for calculating the area of a rectangle was provided to us as follows. Now, A is equal to length multiplied by width. And the input that we are receiving is being obtained. Now we will examine the second example. So, now we will consider the second scenario. Let's say, for example, the date June 10, 1960 holds significance due to its unique numerical arrangement, where the multiplication of the month and day values result in the year value. So, it is evident from the given information that the product of these two factors yields the specified result. This particular date possesses a unique characteristics whereby inputting a specific value for the month and date results in the year being equal to the product of these two inputs. So, the user's text lack academic tone in structure. In this task, we will proceed by developing a software that prompts the user to input the month, day, and year in a two-digital format, or in a two-digit format rather. So the software should afterwards ascertain whether the product of the month and the day is equivalent to the year or not. If this condition is met, the program should generate a message indicating whether the given date is considered magical or not. So, what is the next course of action? We will now proceed to apply the same procedure once more. What is the necessary input for this task? According to the problem statement, it is specified that the user is required to input the month, year, and date in a two-digit format. It is necessary to consider three distinct values. What actions should be taken in relation to that matter? So once again, we propose a solution that consists in a numerous levels. So the solutions involve several phases. Firstly, one must multiply the month by the date. Secondly, the date must be multiplied by the month. And finally, a comparison is made to determine whether the date is magical or not. Once the outcomes of both variables are obtained, let us assume that the month is 6 and the date is 3. When the two quantities are multiplied together, the result is 18. So if the value of 18 matches the given criteria, it might be inferred that the data holds a significant or magical connotation. And the process involves two sequential steps. Firstly, the multiplication of the month and date, followed by a comparison of the resulting value with the year. So the desired outcome is to present a message following the comparison to indicate whether the date is questioned or the date in question is considered magical or not, and the issue at hand pertain to the following matter. This session can be characterized as a brief discussion. So during the lecture, an approach was shown that may be applied to any given problem. One has the ability to perform calculations if an additional element is included. If presented with a task to devise a solution for a given problem, we need to consider the following scenario. The objective is to develop a software capable of computing the Fibonacci series with a specified range, such as from 1 to, for instance, 20, or alternatively, 1 to 100. What is the necessary input for the task at hand? It is necessary to provide inputs. Thus, the given from imply that the input range is limited from 1 to 100. Alternatively, can this statement be modified to indicate that if a certain condition is met or if a program is written, the user will be prompted to enter a number? For instance, let's assume that the user enters a value such as 10, 20, or 30, and subsequently, the program will calculate the Fibonacci series starting from 1 to the number provided by the user. And the current understanding has been enhanced to some extent in order to facilitate comprehension. It will be advantageous for you. The need or the needed input for this computation is a numerical value provided by the user. So could you please clarify the nature of this calculation? And this procedure involves the computation of the Fibonacci series of the given number, with the resulting output being the Fibonacci series. Very well. The subsequent segment poses a challenge. The second inquiry pertains to the calculation of the Fibonacci sequence, and the present task at hand is the assignment that has been assigned to you. It is necessary to conduct an online search using the Google search engine. This is a method of calculating the Fibonacci series. Moreover, upon comprehending the aforementioned concept, one can deduce that this is the solution. The proposed remedy for the problem is straightforward and does not appear to be of significant concern. No, it is intended to emphasize the efficacy of concise approach involving the formulation of 2 or 3 pertinent inquiries. By employing this method, one can effectively address various problem scenarios, thereby facilitating the attainment of desired outcomes, solution development, and enhanced comprehension of the given question. This guide is intended for individuals who are new to the subject and aims to provide instructions on the process of constructing logical reasoning, and this approach is beginner's attempt at the problem itself. Okay. Our discussion have centered around problem solving, logic development, and related topics. Now that you possess the knowledge of how to solve and comprehend the aforementioned problem, as well as how to devise a suitable solution, we shall proceed to engage in practical activities during forthcoming discussion. Currently, I am the process of reviewing the comprehensive information that will be addressed in our discussion. So there are numerous topics that necessitate thorough discussion. Upon completion of the problem-solving process, when constructing a solutions for a problem, it is important to bear in mind certain fundamental principles of programming, which can be referred to as the ABC of programming. So the principle encompass various considerations and actions that need to be taken into account during the development process. The fundamental principle of programming, commonly referred to as an ABC of programming, are consistent across various programming languages. Understanding this fundamental concept is crucial for grasping the essence of programming. The term ABC programming is used to denote three basic principles that are shared among programming languages. While there may be slight variance in syntax, the overall structure and syntax of programming languages remain largely similar. Consequently, acquiring proficiency in programming is not an arduous task. And these characteristics are consistent across all programming languages. And what are the fundamental principles of programming? It is vital to comprehend this concept prior to delving deeper into the development of solutions. Because in order to effectively develop a solutions for an issue, it is important to possess a comprehensive understanding of the relevant factors. And this knowledge will enable us to proficiently articulate and construct the answer in a professional manner. This is the recommended approach for composing your solution in a professional manner. At present, we inquire solely about three specific inquiries. It is evident that the purpose of this endeavor was to comprehend the situation at hand and afterward devise a solution. However, once the solution has been developed, it is important to consider how the presentation of the solution will be approached. In order to effectively communicate the proposed solution, it is important to possess a comprehensive understanding of the fundamental principles and concepts of programming. Now, as previously mentioned, it is important to note that many programming languages possess distinct aspects that are universally present throughout different programming languages. Familiarity with these elements is essential for those embarking in coding endeavors or developing solutions. It is crucial to comprehend that the subsequent analysis will delve deeper into the subject matter at hand, specifically focusing on the intricacies of ABC. There are four common elements that are found in every programming languages. Now, the initial component pertains to the variables, followed by conditions, loops, and ultimately functions. If you are good with these four common features of programming language, it's too easy for you to understand programming. So, common programming constructs are found in every programming language and serve as a fundamental building blocks. Once the fundamental concepts are understood, it becomes apparent that there are several other elements included in programming languages, and many of which are shared across a wide range of programming languages. Certain issues are exclusively associated with a particular programming language being utilized. However, it is imperative to note that these four elements are essential and universally present in programming languages once one has acquired knowledge of them. And this implies that one has the flexibility to commence work in any programming language. We will examine these elements comprehensively later, and allowing me to elucidate each point individually. We may proceed to variables. The initial topic of a discussion pertains to variables. And one may observe the presence of a spot in this particular location, as well as the presence of ball in close proximity. In the realm of programming, variables function is in the following manner. They possess the capability to have provided an illustrative instance below that to demonstrate that when one intends to prepare inputs such as milk, tea, sugar, and water, it is necessary to employ suitable receptacles such as bowls to store these constituents. Initially, it is necessary to produce a receptacle or vessel in which one can amalgamate milk, tea, sugar, and water. Similarly, the situation applies to programming data, which necessitates being stored within a designated container. The aforementioned containers are commonly referred to as variables, and they possess the characteristic of being reusable. Let us consider a scenario where the presence of sugar or salt in a given container is not observable. And once the container is emptied, it becomes possible to introduce alternative substances in the same container. The subject is undergoing a transformation. Hence, the nomenclature variables is attributed to this entity due to its inherent characteristic of being subject to alteration on its occurrence. Certainly, as I previously said, it is necessary to have receptacles such as bowl or containers in order to hold the material or components and facilitate the creation of a desired outcome. In a manner analogous to the aforementioned discussion, it is worth noting that in the realm of programming, the input necessary for a given task is of paramount importance. As I previously elucidated, while considering the example of adding two integers, it becomes evident that two inputs are requisite for this operation. Where should we save the two integers in order to get them for addition, and afterwards save the results in a separate location? In the realm of programming language, the designated location within a computer system are commonly referred to as variable. Variables can be conceptualized as containers or objects utilized for the purpose of storing data. So the present discourse pertains to the variables under considerations, together with additional relevant details concerning those variables or the inherent characteristics. So the type of a variable is determined by the type of the ingredient being assigned to it. Let us consider a scenario where one is utilizing a bowl that allows for the addition of water, salt, and similar substances. However, when utilizing a bowl that allows for the addition of water, salt, and similar substances, however, when utilizing a flat spherical object such as this, it is not possible to introduce water into it. In order to contain the liquid, it is necessary to utilize a spherical receptacle made of glass, and this vessel can accommodate either water or milk, serving as a variable container pot or a bowl. In a similar vein, within the realm of programming, various types of data exist, and let us consider a data set consisting of integer values and decimal numbers, referred to as doubles in this context. Let us consider a set of numerical values, namely 1, 2, and 3, and 5. This pertains to an additional category of data. Among other categories such as numerical values such as 1, 2, and 3.5, the numerical value is questioned in a significant magnitude. And these are the alternative types of data. The selection of the appropriate bowl in path and a contingent upon the quantity and nature of the data at hand. And the concept of variables in programming languages involves the utilization of containers or entities analogous to pots or bowls for storing and manipulating data. And this container possesses the characteristic of being replaceable, allowing the substitution of data within them. This is the reason why we refer to them as variables. The subsequent aspect pertains to the conditions inside the realm of programming, software development, and programming languages. Conditions are utilized as a means of making decisions And let us consider the previous discussion, during which we engage in two exercises. During the initial exercises, we engage in the calculation of the area of two rectangles, and afterwards determining the relative magnitudes of these areas. In this context, a condition mechanism is employed to determine the relative magnitudes of different areas. It is important to establish a requisite condition. In another case, we utilize a method of determining whether a given data possesses magical properties. Once again, a condition is employed. In the context of programming, the condition is employed as a means of making decisions. In a manner of analogous to our everyday experiences, we engage in a variety of decision-making process. In this webinar of each passing minute, individuals are confronted with several choices, prompting considerations regarding their objectives, necessary actions, and appropriate methodologies for execution. It is imperative to incorporate a mechanism that enables programs to exhibit self-awareness. So by specifying the conditions under which certain actions are triggered, we may effectively guide the code's decision-making process, and the task at hand necessitate the completion of a certain actions which is contingent upon the fulfillment of a particular condition. This is deemed essential. Suppose the conditioning mechanism is removed from the programming. It may be anticipated that the code will consistently prompt the user for instruction on how to proceed and what action should I undertake in this situation and what action should I undertake in that sense. What is the recommended approach for accomplishing this task? Therefore, it is imperative to establish a mechanism, and there is a requirement for the inclusion of a condition mechanism within programming language to provide autonomous decision-making capabilities. We provide them with conditions based on the aforementioned criteria. It has the ability to make decisions, allow to provide an alternative case, and let us consider a scenario where are given two integers, specifically the number 2 and 0. Next will be loop. The subsequent element to be discussed is the concept of a loop. The loop is a construct, is commonly employed in programming for the purpose of automation. Frequently, individuals engage in repetitive actions such as consistently making similar statement or performing the same type of job or on a recurring basis. Let us consider the scenario in which an individual depicted in the image engaged in the act of severing the stem of a tree. A male individual is attempting to fell the aforementioned tree, inquiring about the frequency of impact. It is worth noting that when this individual strikes the tree for an initial time, it becomes implausible for this tree to be felled against the ground, as the likelihood of its being shattered with a single strike is deemed improbable. So the individual in question feels compelled to engage in repetitive actions, including striking a tree multiple times. And let us consider the hypothetical scenario of attempting to down a tree onto the ground, repeating the endeavor a variable number of times, ranging from 20 to 30 or even up to 100 iterations. And the current task at hand involves doing repetitive tasks. A similar circumstance arises wherein the necessity for repetition arises. Next will be function. The functions or scripts that one composes and favors. So the aforementioned script has the capability to function autonomously. Suppose I request the creation of a function that, upon receiving input such as two numbers, performs a specific action. If the program is given the inputs of 1 and 2, it assumes that the output will be 3. Whether two numbers are inputted, these functions will output their sum. Functions are essentially self-contained block of code or discrete units of functionality that can be executed autonomously. So the requirement is to input numerical value or supply input in order to obtain the desired output from the function. Functions are an integral and prevalent component of programming languages, as they are essential for coding and constructing solutions. And these functions enhance the reusability aspect of your software, allowing you to reuse code and its associated feature multiple times after it has been written. Now, how to write your solution for better understanding. In this forthcoming lesson, we will be introducing our diverse answer or device answer, which has been formulated through the utilization of three-question approach. Our aim here is to explain the solution in technical manner, ensuring its comprehensibility to a wide range of individuals. As a novices, we have two methods available to us for representing our solutions. And there exist several alternative approaches. But for individuals at the novice level, two prevalent and straightforward methods are available to effectively articulate one's idea in a technical or professional manner. So, in order to ensure comprehensibility by other software developers or individuals, it is imperative to make the content accessible and intelligible. And this method are more closely aligned with programming languages. In order to facilitate the implementation of the aforementioned solution in a programming language, it is necessary to ensure that the necessary steps are taken. The initial item is a representation of a pseudocode, because pseudocode refers to a form of representation that resembles code but does not adhere to the syntax of convention of any specific programming languages. The term pseudo denotes fullness. The text is not written in a programming code, but rather in natural English language. However, it exhibits similarities and resemblances to code structures, making it more akin to code-like characteristics. If the pseudocode is provided to an individual, they would possess the capability to transcribe the code into any programming language of their choosing. Moreover, we will be examining flowcharts in the upcoming session. Building upon the flowcharts previously discussed, in this lesson, we will utilize pseudocode as the means of problem representation. So, the problem we have generated is presented by the solution. Pseudocode is a form of representation that provides a high level of abstract explanation of a programming solution. And the aforementioned observation reveals that the representation and description of a programming solutions are abstract in nature. The system employs a structured programming language. However, it does not However, it does not qualify a programming language per se. The current format of the system is based on a natural language and has characteristics that align closely with programming language. And the aforementioned approach can be employed to defect the proposed resolution. Individual possessing programming expertise would possess the capacity to comprehend the programming characteristics that were deliberated upon during the preceding lecture, as well as those that are integral to this particular discussion. So as what we have here, let us commence with the initial example that was formulated. Once more, we shall resolve the problem at hand and thereby defect the solutions in the form of pseudocode. So facilitating comprehension of a technical approach to programming, and there is no need to reiterate this statement in abstract manner. I will expeditiously proceed with the task of developing a program that prompts the user to input three values. The month, year, and date of the program can be provided either as an input or specified. Subsequently, it is necessary to perform the operations of multiplication between the numerical value representing the date and numerical value representing the month. If the outcome is equivalent to the calendar year, it signifies the occurrence of magical date. And the topic of discussions revolve around the inputs. In order to proceed, it is necessary to obtain three specific values: the month, the day, and the year. And once this input has been acquired, the subsequent step involves determining the appropriate course of action to be taken with regard to these values. So to solve this problem, we must multiply the two given values and subsequently determine the necessary steps to proceed. And the subsequent procedure involves doing a comparison between the obtained outcome and a predetermined reference value. If the value exceeds the value of the year, it is considered magical. In such cases, the result will consist of a textual representation indicating whether the value is magical or not. Certainly, the following outlines the necessary steps that need to be taken, as what I have here. The initial stage involves obtaining the inputs, specifically the month and date. Subsequently, the multiplication of these values is performed, resulting in a computed value that is subsequently stored in a designated location. A comparison is conducted between the obtained findings and the corresponding year. If the outcome of the year is equivalent to the condition of their equality, the magical number should be identified and reported. One is now able to perceive auditory stimuli in the location. I have identified the programming features that are applicable in this context, and the initial consideration pertains to the variables, as it is necessary to establish three variables, month, date, and year, in order to store these respective values. Furthermore, an additional variable is introduced in this context, referred to as the result. And this variable is utilized to store the outcome of the multiplication operation, which may then be utilized for subsequent calculations. And another programming element employed in this context involves the implementation of a decision-making process to ascertain the equality or inequality between two given numbers. And the programming aspect employed in our solution are as follows. At this juncture, we are able to formally defect our proposed solution. The following is the pseudocode representation of a numerical algorithm for the given problem. So as what we have here, the initial step entails acknowledging the inputs, which consists of the month, date, year, and outcomes, as what we have here. The next section outlines the variables used in the study, followed by a description of the calculation performed. The obtained outcome is equivalent to the product of the month and the date. In the event when the outcome is equivalent to the year, it is necessary to execute a display indicating that the date is considered magical. Otherwise, this section represents a pivotal juncture for decision-making. And this aspect pertains to the decision-making process. This section pertains to the wherein the outcome is deemed extraordinary. If the specified condition is found to be incorrect, it is deemed false, and subsequently, we will exhibit the aforementioned text. The following is an example of how one may construct pseudocode. Furthermore, the task at hand is characterized by its simplicity rather than its complexity. If the provided pseudocode is given to a proficient developer with expertise in programming languages, they will be able to efficiently and accurately translate it into executable programming code for your program. Commence engaging its productivity labor. Another example. In this instance, we will have proceed to present an additional example for illustrative purposes. I have modified the given example in order to incorporate a wider range of inquiries within this context. And this is further example that we will be examining, which involve the computations of the factorial of a given number. The user expected to provide an input which can be numerical value. For the purpose of illustration, let us choose the number 5. Say, for example, number 5. Subsequently, we need to compute the factorial of this number, and the resulting value is the factorial of the specified number, which is computed by performing the factorial calculation. In this example, we will explore the process of determining the factorial of a given integer, including its definition and methodology employed to compute it. So one can utilize search engines such as Google, consult with coworkers, and conduct internet research to obtain relevant information. It is crucial to mention that the factorial of a given number can be computed by multiplying all the positive integers from 1 to the given number. For instance, if we consider the number 5, the factorial will be obtained by the multiplying the integers 1 multiplied by 2, by 3, by 4, and 5 together, resulting in the factorial value of the given number. And The user's text lacks academic tone and structure. So to calculate the factorial of a given number, such as 5, we can proceed as follows. First, we multiply 1 by 2, resulting into 2. Next, we'll multiply by 2 by 3, yielding to 6. The product of 6 multiplied by 4 is equal to 24, and subsequently, the product of 24 multiplied by 5, what is your intended conjecture? It is possible to consider the number of 120 in this context. So in this context, we present the following information. So the aforementioned example is also referenced in this context. Once more, the process of multiplying a number successively by integers from 1 to 5 yields of result of 120, which effectively represent a set of 4 numbers. So the rationale behind this approach is the necessity to perform a multiplication operation, a range of numbers, specifically from 1 to the user-defined numbers, in order to derive the diverse vector. In the present scenario, the numerical value is 5. The provided pseudocode illustrates the input in question. Once again, the variables in questions are number and outcomes. Iterate through a range of values from 1 to the specified number. That's what we have here. So this will be the pseudocode. Input is number and result. Loop from 1 to number. Do result is equal to result multiplied by number, then end loop. Okay, so this is the operational mechanism of the process. So this problem that was illustrated either was a somewhat intricate nature. So the factorial problem was successfully resolved through the development of a technological representation. However, a minor issue was encountered during the process. Okay, so right now, we proceed to flowchart. The topic of discussion resolved upon the technical representation of the solution, namely in the form of pseudocode. And during this lesson, we will engage a discussion utilizing a flowchart format. And this technique can be employed to offer a technical representation of the solutions that has been devised. Because a flowchart is a graphical depiction of a program or solution that has been developed. The programming concepts now previously discussed in the course are closely related to the techniques we are currently examining for presenting solutions. And these techniques bear resemblance to programming languages, making it convenient for developers to implement their solutions using the programming language of their choice after designing them. Additionally, a decision structure is assigned to a unique notation in this system, and the presence of a flowchart, which is visual representation of a pseudocode algorithm, lacks a specific notation due to its textual nature. However, it is essential to comprehend the exact notation used in the flowchart. So flowchart is the diagrammatic representation of program or your solutions. It shows the flow of the program, and it has special notations for every activity we perform, like input, decision, and others. This is the first notation. No? This function is utilized for initiating and terminating the program. In the context of the flowchart, the symbol is employed to initiate and terminate the program, or the begin and end. The next one, of course, is this design represents a parallelogram type that serves as both an input and output. So to indicate the direction of input and output inside the diagram, the symbol is utilized, signifying the process of receiving input and presenting output to the user. The third is rectangle, referred to as a rectangle in the statement, utilized the purpose of processing. And this section encompasses the primary aspect of data manipulation and computational processing. This section pertains to programming. So when making judgment, an often employed graphical representation is the diamond shape, which is utilized in flowchart to depict decision points. And the flow lines. Now, these arrows denotes the direction of the data flow within the flowchart, indicating the intended movement and destination of the data. It signifies the direction in which we are currently traveling in subsequent direction we should proceed towards. Okay, so based on the given example, Let us engage in discussion regarding the program that we have already revolved and resolved and extensively deliberated upon in the preceding lesson. Okay, so based on the given example earlier, this will be the flow chart. And the start, no, the input, the process, the decision, and of course the results. I have problem with my voice. What happened? Another, of course, the second example is the factorial number, no? And ito po yung ano niya. Okay. Sorry. Okay. So this is the latest course. In this forthcoming session, we shall delve into an examination of the characteristic inherent in programming languages. In addition to aforementioned programming aspect, there exist several subcategories, no, within the field of programming. So as what we have here, so for variables, we have int, double, float, char, string. For decision, FL, switch, and then if and else. For the loops, for loop, while loop, do while loop. For array, we have sub features of variable and the functions. I'll just want to play a additional video presentation about a logic formulation that was discussed actually by the student, no, the professor also, I mean.
Good day to everyone. So ngayon ay pag-usapan naman natin ang flowchart. So ano nga ba ang flowchart? Ang flowchart is a diagram, no, na kung saan pinapakita niya yung mga shapes or may meaning yung different shapes na yon, kung ano ba yung process na gagawin natin or pwede natin gawin. So it composed of shapes and arrow lines. It is also a diagram. Mas naiintindihan natin, no, it understands clearly the sequence of process or events. Kasi nga, shapes ang ginagamit natin. No, mas madali kasi nating maintindihan ang mga sequence of events kung nakita natin siya in figures. At ang halimbawa nun, in technical term, is yung flowchart. Okay, so ano ba yung mga shapes na pwede natin gamitin sa loob ng flowchart? So, first one is yung terminal. No? So, ang terminal, dalawa lang ang pwede nating ilagay dyan. It's either start or end. No? So, dalawa lang. So, ito yung parang oval shape, no, or hotdog shape na ginagamit natin sa flowchart or figure. So, next one is yung preparation or declaration of variables. Ito yung parang yatos, no? So, hexagon shape, pwede natin gamitin para sa pag-declare ng mga variables. Next one naman is input or output. Ang shape ng input-output is yung ganito. Parallelogram. So, dito natin inilalagay kung ano man yung gusto nating i-display or kung ano man yung gusto nating i-output. Be sure na meron din tayong word na display or print or input, no, or encode. No, para alam natin kung ano ba yung purpose ng shape na to. Next one is yung decision. So, ang decision naman is yung diamond. So, yung diamond shape. So, it's either true or false, 1 or 0, yes or no, yung sagot dito. No? So, kumbaga, siya yung nag-check kung ano ba, kung saan ba tayo pupunta, kung kaliwa ba or kanan, kung tama ba or mali. So, ang tawag dito is decision. Next one is yung square or yung rectangle. So, it is a process. Lahat-lahat ng mga computation, lahat-lahat ng transaction, lahat-lahat ng process na pwede natin gawin sa isang program, dito natin ilalagay sa shape na to. Siyempre, kung gumagawa tayo ng flowchart at medyo malaki yung program, minsan, nagsasanga-sanga yung mga flow. Ngayon, pwede tayong gumamit ng on-page tsaka ng off-page connector. Yung on-page, ito yung bilog. Yung off-page naman, ito yung penta, no? Yung pentagram. Para saan etong mga to? No? Link, no? From one point to another. So, ito yung ginagamit kung nasa same page, no? At yung nasa different page, no? Ng diagram. So, it is a link or continuation of flowchart. Okay, so next one naman, ang isa sa mga pinakamahalagang portion ng flowchart is yung arrow lines. It's either left, right, up, or down. No? So, ang tawag sa kanya is flow indicator. Kung lalagyan lang natin siya ng line at walang arrowhead, hindi natin alam kung saan ba papunta yung flow ng program. No? It's either left or right, or up or down. Ito naman ngayon, sample flowchart. Ang tawag dito is sequential flow. So, naging sequential flow siya kasi isang line lang tayo or isang daanan lang tayo, which is pababa. No? So, hindi tayo bumabalik, walang bumabalik na arrow lines, at the same time, walang condition. No? So, ang tawag sa ganitong klaseng flowchart or algorithm is sequential. No? Okay, so, convert ngayon natin yung algorithm natin into flowchart. Una is yung start. Sabi ko nga kanina, yung start is naka-shape siya sa elongated oval. So, ito yon. Ang tawag ko dito, kadalasan is hotdog. Kasi mukha siyang hotdog. No? So, next one is yung step 1, which is initialize num1, num2, and sum. Kung mapapansin nyo, etong tatlo na to, nakalagay siya sa loob ng hexagram or hexagon. So, yung hexagon na to, it is a declaration. So, nagde-declare tayo. So, pangalawa naman is yung enter value for num1 or first number. No? So, meron tayong arrow line papunta dito sa shape na to, which is yung parallelogram. No? At nilagay natin dito ngayon si enter value for first number. So, after nating makuha, which is ito is input, kukuha naman tayo ngayon ng second number. No? So, ito, si number 3. Enter value for num2 or second number. No? So, enter value for second number. Okay, so after nating makuha yung second number, nagpo-proceed tayo sa pang-apat, which is yung sum. No? So, pag-compute ng sum, num1 plus num2, which is equivalent to sum. So, ngayon, it is a process or it is a computation of formula. So, kaya inilagay natin siya sa rectangular or square shape. Okay? So, num1 plus num2 is equals to sum, which is identified siya as formula. And next one, pupunta yun yung arrowhead natin or flow line papunta kay display sum. So, i-display ngayon natin kung ano man yung meron sa loob ng sum. And after that, end na yung program or terminate na yung program. Okay? So, etong example na to is sequential kasi isang line lang siya pababa. Another example natin ng flowchart is yung merong condition. So, ang tawag dito is conditional flow. No? Yung iba naman, ang tawag sa kanya is condition flow. No? Or condition flowchart. No? So, bakit naging conditional flowchart? Kasi, meron tayong tanong dito na kung saan, or meron tayong condition na kung saan, kung yung number ba, or yung sum ba, is greater than 0. No? So, gumamit ngayon tayo dito ng diamond para dun sa condition. Una, yung start. So, meron tayong start. Second one is yung declaration, which is yung initialize num1, num2, and sum. No? Yung iba, ginagamit dito is yung process. Pero, yung iba naman, ang ginagamit dito is yung hexa. So, nonetheless, nakapag-initialize tayo dito. Next one is yung enter value for num1 and num2. So, kukunin natin yung first number at yung second number. Next, sum. So, num1 plus num2 equivalent to sum. So, yung formula uli natin. So, ngayon, Kung ang sum natin greater than 0, di-display natin yung sum. Kung no naman, mag-proceed tayo sa end. No, hindi na natin i-display yung sum. So, ganun gumagana si conditional flow. Okay, so to give example, pagpalagay natin na meron tayo ditong certain value. So, let's say naglagay tayo dito ng 12. At ang second value natin, naglagay tayo ng 3. No? So, etong num1 natin is magiging 12 plus num2 which is yung 3. No? So, equivalent to sa 15. No? So, ngayon, etong sum na to is 15. No? So, ngayon, ang condition natin, sinasabi natin dito na yung sum, kapag greater than 0, yes. No? So, papasok ngayon tayo sa display sum. No? So, kapag nagkataon naman na 0 or equivalent sa 0 yung sum natin, pupunta ngayon tayo sa no. So, then, end. No? So, yun yung ginagawa natin sa conditional flowchart. Sa pangatlong example natin ng flowchart is yung tinatawag nating looping or iterative flow. So, dito, pinapakita natin na merong umuulit or uulitin natin yung isang condition hanggang maging true or hanggang sa masatisfy natin yung binibigay natin condition sa kanya. Okay? So, dito, explain natin siya line by line. So, una, mag-i-start ulit tayo. Next, yung counter natin, which is yung equal to 1. So, dito, nag-i-initialize tayo na yung variable ay equivalent sa 1. So, pwede tayong gumamit ng ganitong klaseng shape. Pwede rin tayong gumamit ng ganitong klase. So, depende yun dun sa preference nyo or depende rin yan dun sa reference na ginagamit nyo. Next is yung counter natin. So, tinitingnan ngayon natin dito na kung yung counter ba or yung halaga or yung value ng counter is mas malaki sa 5 or greater than 5. So, kapag greater than 5, magdi-display siya ng counter tapos ita-terminate na yung program. Kung hindi pa, pupunta siya dito sa no at i-display niya yung counter. So, ngayon, pag-display niya ng counter, pupunta ulit tayo dito sa counter is equals to counter plus 1. So, ang ginagawa nito, yung value ng counter na 1 is nag-a-add lang tayo ng 1. Ibibigay natin yung value pabalik dun sa variable natin counter. Kung baga, ilalagay natin yung nagko-compute tayo ng value at ilalagay natin siya sa same variable. Parang pinapatungan lang natin yung dati niyang laman. Then, babalik ulit tayo sa counter. So, dito, counter na ngayon natin ay 2. Magiging 2 na siya dahil sa computation natin kanina. Okay? So, next, since na hindi pa i-equal sa 5 yung condition natin, so, babalik ngayon tayo sa display counter. I-display uli natin yung value ng counter, no, at babalik tayo sa counter plus 1. So, yung value niya kanina na 1, magiging 2. Tapos, babalik ulit tayo sa counter. So, hanggang sa makuha natin yung value na 5. Kailangan kasi makuha natin yung value na 5 para umexit na tayo dito or lumabas na tayo sa loop. No? So, ganun ang tinatawag nating looping or iterative flow. Ngayon, subukan naman natin ng merong value. First is yung counter. So, meron tayong counter is equals to 1. Ngayon, since na ang counter natin is equals to 1, yung initial natin, uh, proceed tayo dito sa condition. So, dito, ang unang value natin ay 1. So, since ang 1 ay hindi pa siya greater than 5, i-display niya muna to. So, kung meron tayong screen, kung ito yung screen natin, ang i-display natin dito ay 1. So, next is yung counter. So, ang unang value natin ay 1. 1 plus 1. So, is equals to 2. So, ngayon, ang next na value natin ay 2. So, iikot ngayon ulit tayo. Babalik tayo dito sa counter, which is ang value na ngayon natin ay 2. No? So, hindi na siya 1. Counter, ganun pa din. No? So, less than 5 pa din siya, kaya no pa din. So, magdi-display ngayon tayo dito ng 2 sa ating screen. Bababa ulit tayo dito. So, kanina, yung value natin, hindi na siya 1, naging 2 na. So, 2 plus 1 is equals to 3. So, since na 3 na yung value, babalik ulit tayo sa condition at i-check ulit natin kung equal na ba siya sa 5. So, since na hindi pa, bababa ulit tayo sa display counter. I-display ulit natin dito is 3. No? So, bababa ulit tayo dito. So, magiging 3 na. No? Plus 1 ulit. No? So, hindi pa din. Babalik ulit tayo dito. Magiging 4. So, 4 is hindi pa din siya greater than sa 5. No? So, no pa din. Display counter number 4. No? So, bababa ulit tayo dito sa counter. So, 4 plus 1. No? So, is equal to 5. So, babalik ulit tayo dito at magiging 5 ito. Since na ang 5 is hindi siya greater than 5, instead, it is equal to 5. So, ang mangyayari ngayon dito, i-display uli natin si counter, which is no. So, magiging 5 tayo dito. So, tapos, 5 plus 1. No. So, 5 plus 1 is equivalent to 6. So, yung 6 ngayon, check ngayon natin yung counter kung equivalent ba siya sa 5 or greater than ba siya sa 5. Since na greater than 5 na siya, yes, display counter, which is yung 6, then end program. So, ganun gumagana or ganun sinasimulate yung tinatawag nating looping. In summary, so ang program flowchart isa siyang graphical representation of algorithm or program. Pangalawa, ang program flowchart, ang flowchart natin, gumagamit siya ng different shapes and directional lines para makita natin kung saan siya pupunta at para malaman natin kung ano ba yung process na ginagawa. So, meron tayong tatlong program flow. No? So, ito yung sequential, conditional, at yung looping or iteration. So, again, pag sinabi nating sequential, one direction execution lang. So, ibig sabihin, isang daanan niya lang, hindi na siya bumabalik or wala siyang split decision. While in conditional statement, meron siyang condition or meron siyang question na kung saan dalawa lang yung sagot. So, it's either true or false, yes or no, or 1 or 0. No? So, yung 1 or 0, it depends yan doon sa program or sa algorithm na ginagamit or condition ni algorithm. So, lastly is yung looping or iteration. Ito yung umuulit na part ng program or na part ng flowchart na kung saan hanggat hindi pa nag-true or hindi pa satisfy yung condition, iikot lang siya ng iikot doon sa certain program na naka-reside sa loob ng loop. Okay? So, then, ang logic formulation pagdating sa programming. Una, tingnan muna natin yung mga simpleng process na kung saan ginagawa natin sa araw-araw. Halimbawa nito is yung pagre-ready natin or paghahanda natin ng gamit or ng materials bago tayo pumasok sa trabaho o pumasok sa klase. Una, syempre gigising tayo, no? Yung iba sa inyo nag-prepare ng breakfast, kakain ng breakfast, maliligo, susuotin yung mga dapat na isuot o yung mga uniform, titingnan yung material sa loob ng bag o yung mga gamit na kailangan sa loob ng trabaho or klase. And lastly, punta tayo sa trabaho or sa klase. Yung iba sa inyo, ganito yung ginagawa. Or yung iba sa atin, ito yung step, no? Ito yung routine. No? Yung iba naman, ganito ang routine. No? Pagkagising, maliligo, magsusuot ng damit or kung ano man yung necessaryong uniform na gagamitin sa araw, titignan yung mga materials bago pa lang sila kakain. No? Mag-prepare ng breakfast at kakain. No? Bago sila pumasok sa trabaho. Kung mapapansin nyo, itong dalawang procedure na to or routine, magkaiba. No? Yung isa, kakain muna, yung isa naman, maliligo muna. No? Ang mahalaga dito, at the end of the procedure or sequence, yung pagpasok natin. No? Ang logic formulation, ganun din. No? Kung ano man yung naiisip nyong diskarte or kung ano man yung naiisip nyong procedure, tama yon. Ang mahalaga dyan is yung ma-provide nyo yung output. So, another example natin is yung puzzle. No? So, pag nagbubuo tayo ng puzzle. No? So, kung nagbubuo tayo ng puzzle, kung mapapansin nyo, pwede tayong mag-start kahit saan. Pwede tayong mag-start dito, sa green. Pwede tayong mag-start sa pink. No? Or kahit saan. Ang mahalaga, mabuo natin or makompleto natin yung puzzle mismo or yung picture dun sa puzzle. No? Again, logic formulation. It depends yan kung saan ka mag-i-start. Ang mahalaga, mapakita mo ng tama yung output. Another example natin is yung pag-prepare natin or pagre-ready natin ng breakfast. Mapapansin nyo, sa tatlong ito, iisa lang yung magiging output niya. Pero, magkakaiba sila ng sequence or magkakaiba sila ng steps. Sa first one, nauna yung mainit na tubig, naglagay tayo ng coffee, naglagay tayo ng milk, tapos ng sugar, bago mabuo natin yung coffee. Sa second naman, second sequence, tubig, gatas, kape, asukal, saka yung coffee. In third one, coffee, sugar, milk, hot water, then coffee. Kung mapapansin nyo, magkakaiba sila ng sequence, magkakaiba sila ng diskarte. Pero iisa lang yung magiging output niya, which is yung coffee for breakfast. Ang logic formulation is parang ganito din, no? Parang sa triangle. Kailangan nating makita yung iba't ibang shapes or ang iba't ibang angulo or mga situation bago natin siya ma-conclude na nakakita tayo ng 12 triangles. No? In programming, in logic formulation, ganun din. No? May mga pagkakataon kasi na kung saan yung unang diskarte natin o yung unang logic na inisip natin is mali. So, kailangan nating humanap ng ibang paraan para mabuo natin yung desired output ng program natin. Ano ba ang program and logic formulation? No? Ang program at logic formulation, ito yung steps or procedure na ginagawa natin para makuha natin or para magawa natin yung isang program. No? Ang logic naman, it is a set of principles underlying the arrangement of elements. No? Yung pagkakasunod-sunod or yung pagkaka-arrange ng different procedure or different task para makuha natin yung gusto nating objective or yung gusto nating program. Another example natin is ito. Kung mapapansin nyo, 1 plus 3 plus 4 is equals to 8. No? Yung iba sa inyo, pwedeng isipin yung ganitong sequence. Yung iba naman, pwede rin yung 3 plus 4 plus 1 is equals to 8. Still, the same sila, pero magkakaiba sila ng arrangement. Yung iba naman, pwede rin ganito. 2 plus 5, multiply natin sa 4 is equals to 28. O kaya naman, 4 times 3 plus 4 is equals to 28. Still, parehas pa rin sila. Pero, magkaiba na sila ng figure na ginamit. Ang mahalaga dyan, sabi ko nga kanina, is yung output. Dapat, tama parehas yung output natin. So, mula dito, sa ganitong klaseng technique or sa ganitong klaseng konsepto, nakakapag-create tayo ng iba't ibang logic. Marami pang iba kung mapapansin nyo yung number na to. Pero, ang output niyan is still 28. Just like programming. Yun nga, sabi ko kanina, kapag nagpa-program tayo, may iba't ibang diskarte, may iba't ibang sequence ang iniisip ng kada programmer. Ang mahalaga dyan, tama yung output at naiintindihan din ng ibang programmer kung ano yung sequence na ginawa mo. Ngayon, may tinatawag din tayong pseudocode at algorithm. So, ano ba yung dalawa? No. Pag sinabi nating pseudocode, ito yung simplified programming language. Ito yung informational language at text-based only. Gumagamit lang to ng phrases at words. Ibig sabihin, gumagamit lang siya ng sentence at words na nakikita or naiintindihan ng ordinaryong tao. No? So, etong mga to, ang halimbawa is yung cooking recipe. No? Yung ginagamit sa mga cooking book, no? Yung pagluluto. At yung ginagawa natin, parang nakikita or yung nasa loob ng instruction manual, no? Ng any appliances or any gadgets. So, nakikita natin yung step by step kung ano ba yung pwede natin gawin. No? So, ang tawag sa kanya is pseudocode kasi naiintindihan din natin siya phrase by phrase, words by words. No? So, yun. Now, let's proceed sa algorithm. So, pag sinabi nating algorithm, uses keywords only. No? Mas madali siyang maintindihan in terms of words ang ginagamit, no? Or keywords lang. No? Systematic din siya at the same time, more on logical expression. No? So, ginagamit natin si algorithm para makabuo tayo ng more on logical expression, no? More on formula. No? So, mas nagagamit si algorithm kapag nagbubuo tayo ng program kaysa kay pseudocode. No, tingnan natin ngayon ang example ng pseudocode tsaka ng algorithm. Ang example natin dito is nag-add tayo ng dalawang numbers. Una, pseudocode. So, kung mapapansin nyo, sa pseudocode natin, nagpe-prepare tayo ng storage for first number and second number. No? Tapos yung sum. I-encode natin or ilalagay natin yung unang numero or unang number. Tapos kukunin natin yung pangalawang number. Saka natin siya i-add sa fourth step. After natin siyang i-add, ipapakita ngayon natin yung sagot or yung sum. In terms naman ng algorithm, magiging ganito ang structure niya. Again, parehas lang tayong nag-add ng two numbers. Meron tayong start, no, initialize, num1, num2, or sum. Ang tawag sa mga to is variables. No? Kukunin natin yung unang number at ilalagay natin sa num1. Kukunin natin yung pangalawang number at ilalagay natin sa num2. Ngayon, yung numbers o yung variable na tinatawag, yung num1 at num2, i-add natin yan at ilalagay natin siya doon sa sum. Ngayon, ipapakita ngayon natin o i-display ngayon natin yung sum. Kung mapapansin nyo, ang algorithm is keywords ang ginagamit. Pero, ang pseudocode, ginagamit natin siya by sentence. Same like sa programming. So, again, ang sabi ko nga kanina, mas nagagamit si algorithm kaysa kay pseudocode. No? Mas layman's term ang pseudocode at mas technical term ang algorithm. Basics ng programming at logic formulation. Okay, so himayin na ngayon natin kung ano ba yung meron sa loob ng algorithm. Sabi ko nga kanina, yung num1, num2, at yung sum, ang tawag sa kanila is variables. Ang mga variables sa programming, ito yung mga storage of data that can be referenced and processed and manipulated. Pagpalagay nyo na lang na ang mga variables is isang container na kung saan pwede nating lagyan ng kahit na anong value. Yung container na yon, pwede natin silang i-manipulate sa pag-add, pag-subtract, pag-divide, at pag-multiply. At marami pang iba. Sumunod is yung formula. So, ang tawag ngayon dito is formula. num1 plus num2. Yung unang container, i-add natin sa pangalawang container yung sum or yung sagot o yung resulta ng dalawang number na to is ipupunta natin sa loob ng isa pang container which is yung sum. Again, ang formula, it is an expression telling to the program what computation or process to execute. No? So, sinasabi natin sa computer or sa program na ano ba yung dapat niyang gawin or ano ba yung dapat niyang i-execute. And last is yung enter and display. Kung mapapansin nyo dun sa algorithm natin, nakikita natin yung keyword na enter and display. So, ang tawag dito is input and output. No? Ang input tells us to encode some values and output displays what we want to see. So, yun yung difference ni enter and display. So, may iba't ibang keywords pa tayo kagaya ng encode, no? Kagaya ng input, no? Kagaya ng enter, yan. So, lahat ng yan, magpo-fall under or masasabi natin isa siyang input process, no? Or input. Ang display naman, display, output, generate, no? Print, no? Lahat ng yan is equivalent ng output, no? Na kung saan nakikita natin or na kung saan na generate natin kung ano man yung display or ano man yung output or data na gusto nating makita. Another example ng algorithm or ng program. Ito naman is simple billing calculator. No? So, kung mapapansin nyo dito sa algorithm natin, nag-declare tayo ng 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 variables. No? Yung mga variables na to, ito yung name, product, price, quantity, at yung total amount. No? Second step natin, hiningi natin or hinihingi ng program na maglagay tayo ng name. No? So, kapag naglagay tayo ng name, magpo-proceed tayo sa third step, which is yung hihingiin naman niya kung ano yung product. So, after nyan, sa pang-apat is yung enterprise, which is yung magkano yung product na bibilihin natin. So, pang-lima, ilan yung binibili natin. No? Fifth step. Sixth step is i-compute natin yung total amount, no? Or yung magkano ba yung total na binibili natin. So, para magawa ito, yung variable na price is i-multiply natin sa quantity. Kung mapapansin nyo rito, variable ang ginamit natin. Ang asterisk, which is representation ng multiply, no? So, kung ano man yung output nito, kung ano man yung result ng computation natin, ilalagay natin siya sa variable na total amount. And lastly, for step 7, your name is, i-display niya yung pangalan, which is dito sa blank, and your total amount is, ilalagay niya rito. Okay? So, in example, output, so kagaya nito. So, kung nag-enter tayo ng name na 1, so ito yon yung second. No? Nag-enter din tayo ng product, which is yung bag, which is yung third step. No? Nag-enter tayo ng price, which is 100 pesos per bag, which is ito yon yung fourth step. Nag-enter ulit tayo ng quantity, which is 2. So, ito yon yung fifth step. Yung sixth step, hindi natin siya in-output. Walang output to kasi it is a logic or it is a formula. No? Yung seventh step, okay, your name is 1 and your total amount is 200. Okay, so in a summary, no, pag sinabi nating logic formulation, sa programming, ito yung any different steps or methods, no, as long as it solves the problem or hit the objective. No? Nagagawa niya yung objective at the same time, kung ano man yung problem na kailangan nating solusyonan, nagagawa niya with the use of appropriate steps and methods at saka yung variables and formulas. No? So, kapag pinagsama-sama natin sila, that's the time, no, na masasabi natin siyang logic formulation. No? So, next one, ang logic formulation o ang programming, basically, meron siyang variables, input, process, and output. No? So, yan ang isa sa mga basic foundation ng programming.
Okay, so I will already show you a video presentation on how you'll be able to understand some program and logic formulations with some detailed examples. So this time, before I end the topic, no, I just want to give you the way on how to improve your logic building skills for programming. Number one, of course, improve your grasp over fundamentals. No? First, have a clear understanding of the basic concepts like variables, data types, conditions, functions, loops, and other problem-solving techniques. Also, learn the data structures and algorithm which help you develop your logical thinking. Without conceptual clarity, it is difficult to learn advanced concepts and solve problems. So don't just read or watch the theoretical part, but solve questions and write, of course, a basic program yourself. Number two, join in a coding communities. Now, me personally, no, I am a member of different through FB, no, through FB and some other blogs, no, for coding, no. Join coding communities, no, for forums and groups, and be active in them. If you are stuck on a problem, you will most likely get an answer from someone in these groups and be introduced to different points of view on similar problems. Not only that, you can network with fellow programmers, learn from them, and help others too. And you can find coders for your projects and mentors to guide you. Number two is analyze others' code. No, ito yung most commonly na ginagawa ko. No, we are not telling you to copy. Not all programmers think alike. As you know, there are many ways to solve a particular problem. So look how your classmate or friend has written a program. There are many code repositories like GitHub, Bitbucket, and SourceForge, no, where you can view the entire code of a project and try to grasp its logic. You can learn a lot from advanced programmers by observing their programming styles. Number four, participate in coding challenges and hackathons. No? And these time-bound challenges force you to exercise your logic super quickly and come up with accurate solutions, making it a great learning experience that helps to think faster and improve your logical thinking. You become better at solving problems and writing code with time, and this help you prepared for advanced level programming boot camps. Although we recommend you don't focus excessively on winning initially. No? So actually, eyesight provided programming competitions. Now, another advice: solve puzzles. Now, you might have heard about the difficult puzzle that companies like Google, Microsoft, Facebook, and others ask interviews. Do you know why? Because a person who can solve puzzle is very good at logical thinking and consequently good at programming. Solve as many logical puzzles and math problem as you can, and you can find tons of them online in a library. We recommend you indulge in at least one puzzle daily, not to help keep your mind sharp. You also provide play, or you just another advice is play logical games. No, who doesn't love to play games? Of course, video games are fun, but try to play more logical games. There are many board games like chess, checkers, tiger game, ludo, battleship, and others, or even simple ones like tic-tac-toe, SOS, dots, sudoku, and so on, which help you work the logical muscles of your brain. If board games are not your thing, you can find many logical games and puzzles online and in your mobile app store. These games are folder for your brain, And of course, sharpen your logical thinking. And number 7, learn different programming paradigms. No, there are many programming paradigms like procedural. Yun yung kinasanayan namin Pascal, no, C, C++, Java, object-oriented programming, of course, and functional, among others, which are used for solving problems. And these paradigms act as a blueprint using which you can build projects. Although OOP is the popular one, learning others will help you expand your programming knowledge and improve your general programming skills. You learn to solve a problem in a different ways actually, no? And lastly, syempre, di ba sabi nga natin, kapag lagi tayo nagka-practice, no? Practice, practice, and practice. Practice programming by writing code. You can do this by solving programming questions on website like Geek for Geeks, no? CodeShift, and HackerFart, no? Or HackerEarth, no? To name a few. And don't do it for a couple of days and stop. Be consistent, no? Practice makes perfect. Set realistic goals and solve a few questions daily. Start with simple problems and gradually work your way up. You can also use paper and pen to write the logic in the form of algorithm or flowchart or pseudocode before writing the program on the IDE. So I think that's it for today. Even I have something to share pa dapat, no, specifically with data structure, no, but looking forward that this will be the time for you to research on and increase, no, your learning or expand your understanding on data structure and algorithm or the object-oriented programming. So if you have some questions, since I'm right now I have an accreditation task, no, I will allow you to message our iSight Facebook page, no, and we will be able to answer all your queries related to this topic. So once again, thank you for attending and looking forward to see you on the list of our activities within the iSight organizations through our page. Okay, so once again, good evening or good day, good night, good morning to each and everyone. Stay safe, everyone. Good luck, and I hope you've learned something from my discussions. Stay safe. Bye-bye.